Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of ZB's Horsepower Talk. As always, I'm ZB, Zach Brown. Dad is not with us today, and we got a little bit of a different look for you, so we're trying something different out. But we've got a lot coming to you today. Go over the Southern 500 at Darlington, a big upset that happened there, and a new face in the playoffs. And the playoffs for NASCAR begin this week in the NASCAR Cup Series. Xfinity, one of the Cup guys, takes the win away from the Xfinity guys at Darlington. Everything starts this week in Atlanta, and we have a lot to go over for sprint car racing. NHRA just finished up their biggest weekend to date. It is a lot going on. IndyCar has one race left as well as the championship is about to unfold. So let's get into this right now. But as always, this show is brought to you by my friends over at W Energy. There's a link right beside us on the bottom left of your screen. Make sure you check them out. It is w.gg. Use discount code ZBHP. Get 10% off your order, which is essentially free shipping. Go check them out. All sorts of energy supplements, clean energy supplements, mind you. Hydration supplements. Cool swag. They've got cans. They're out of stock right now because they're pretty solid stuff right there, I'm going to tell you. But all sorts of things. Go check them out. Use my discount code. It helps everybody, and we'll have a good time with it. It's great stuff that W Energy is doing. It's a local U.S. company. All right. Well, first things first, let's talk about what everybody's talking about in the motorsports world, the Southern 500. What an upset that happened at the Lady in Black. The track too tough to tame. Well, this guy tamed it. If you told me before the race that Chase Briscoe was going to win and lock himself into the playoffs and win a crown jewel of NASCAR, I'd be saying you're lying. He had 0.06% chance to make the playoffs. He had to win. A lot of people had to win. Bubba Wallace essentially had to win. He probably could have possibly raced his way into points, but it would have been difficult. Kyle Busch had to win. All these drivers. And comes to a final restart, and Chase Briscoe gets a hell of a run on the backstretch, dives it in, makes it stick, slides up in front of Larson, who was probably the fastest car, just didn't have the best restart at the end, and races away to take the lead away and fends off Kyle Busch, which Kyle didn't really have anything at the end to throw at him. Chase did a fantastic job. He wasn't too concerned with what was behind him. He was racing straight ahead. He's playing more offense than defense, and that's what you got to do. He made it happen and could possibly be the final win for SHR, as they are obviously going out of business and just becoming a single-car Haas factory team next year. But good for Chase. He was so humble about it and getting into the playoffs. He's been going through a lot these last few years, and he'll be in a different team next year, and Joe Gibbs taking over for Martin Truex Jr. So to see him get a solid win at the Southern 500, that can propel you, can give you momentum, motivation for the next season. I don't think he really goes anywhere in the playoffs, but anything can really happen. The Southern 500 was a really good race. The parts that I caught, I was working that night, so it was hard to catch everything. But I was pretty much spot on with my predictions, and if Martin Truex Jr. didn't wreck in the beginning, I think everything would have been pretty solid, and my fantasy was right on, and it was all correct for the most part. The Hendricks and Toyotas were fast, like I predicted, and Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski were solid in the race. It was, I kind of know what I'm talking about sometimes, it seems. So I think Kyle Larson would have been the one to win had the late race caution not come out. But that's how racing goes. That's how the Southern 500 seems to go. Anything can really shake things up. And the Xfinity race, not really much to go over. Christopher Bell gets a last one final restart, green-white checkered, to defend off everybody behind him to get the win at Darlington. I wasn't too far off with my pick, which was Chase Elliott. didn't get my pick right in the Cup Series, and my DraftKings thing with Martin Truex Jr. wrecking lap 1, or lap 2, would never predicted that. Kind of messed up that. So if you followed me on social media, on X, and you put the same bet I had, I apologize. This week's not going to be much better. Let's dive into Atlanta. This is speedway racing. This is another crapshoot. To start off the playoffs in this type of racing is going to be a lot of fun and impossible to predict. Atlanta has put on really good shows with the speedway racing. I was very skeptical of it to begin with, but when they went to this, I enjoyed it. And each race has gotten better and better, and now the track has gotten a little bit more wear and tear over the last couple of years since the new repave, and it's really helped. Completely smooth track, not wearing any tires, not doing anything to make the drivers drive these cars. Gets a little boring sometimes. But this racing has been very good. If they do it like Daytona was last week or 2 weeks ago, I think we're in for a treat. I haven't seen what the stage breaks are, see how it's all broken down. But I don't think it's going to be hard for people to conserve fuel here, to ride 3 wide and just ride it out. It'll be good. It'll be an interesting race. There'll be a lot of cautions, I believe. It's start off the playoffs though. This is absolutely incredible. I think this will kick off a very, very good NASCAR Playoffs for all of the series. I think it's going to be definitely one to watch. Just Xfinity Cup this week, so they're both Xfinity is a night race or evening into night. Cup race is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Completely different styles, different than what we saw in the spring with Atlanta, where it ended under the lights for the Cup Series. Now, I think you'll see cars slide around. It's been cooling off in the south. I haven't seen what the temperature is looking like in Atlanta, but it's still going to make if it's sunny, the track's going to be hot and slick. That will make a very, very good race. Another unpredictable race. And I'm using a similar strategy to what I saw at Daytona, what these cars were doing and how fast they were and how they were handling at Daytona, how these drivers were able to navigate through the field and be there at the finish. And no, I'm just a heads up, I'm not picking Harrison Burton to win this one. I don't think he makes it past this round. I'm not picking Chase Briscoe. I don't think he'll make it past this round. But I do potentially see an upset here, and it might be a non-playoff driver that wins this. But let's take a look at the playoff standings. And I'm going to give you my first 4 out. Now, I could be completely wrong because of Atlanta. Atlanta is the crapshoot of this. And you do have Watkins Glen is next week, and that's another crapshoot in itself. So you could definitely see upsets there. Drivers like Daniel Suarez has potential to win both these races. I don't see it happening. I think you'll see more of the regular drivers take command here. So, in case you're wondering, look on NASCAR's website, but this is the list of the 16 drivers in the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. You got Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez, Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, Harrison Burton, Ty Gibbs, Martin Truex Jr. Now, Tyler Reddick, because of the regular season championship, he's bumped up to the number 3 seed in the playoffs. Kyle Larson still has the most points going into the first round with 2,040. He is 36 in front of Martin Truex Jr. Here's my first 4 out. And here's who do not advance to the round of 12. Let's just get out of the way. Harrison Burton. He doesn't move on from this round. Next one, I already mentioned it, Chase Briscoe. I don't think he makes it out of this round. Another one, and I think he could potentially do well at the Glen, but I'm picking Austin Cindric. He's out. And believe it or not, he hasn't been racing too well lately. And he has potential at the Glen because of winning earlier in Chicago this year, but other than that, he has not really been solid. Alex Bowman, I think these next two races he's going to have to step up if he's going to have a chance to move on, but I don't see Alex Bowman moving on. So those are my first four out. I'm not going to give you a championship prediction right now. Make sure you check out my earlier episode at the beginning of the year, who I predicted to be in the Final Four. I think I once again had Kyle Busch go in it, but I know Denny Hamlin was in it, Kyle Larson was in it. I think I might have had Joey Logano and possibly Chase Elliott or something. I can't quite remember, but make sure you check that out. I'll have to look at it. But I think those are the first four out. I think those are realistic ones to be out. But Martin Truex Jr., not the greatest speedway racer, but it is Atlanta, so really anything can happen there. Yeah, it's kind of up in the air, really. Did I give you four? I gave you Harrison Burton, Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, and Alex Bowman. I think Suarez does move on. I think he could win at the Glen. I don't think he makes it too far. He won't make it past round of 12, but I think he's got potential to do something, a little something, to at least move on. And that's the defending winner of Atlanta winning in the spring. All right, so we get that out of the way. Now, who do we go with this week? Well, as always, let's get into our fantasy. So, my beautiful face will go off the screen so you can see what I have picked this week in NASCAR Fantasy. So, bear with me now. All right, you can see it. I've got the hometown kid, Chase Elliott. Good speedway racer. Wants to get a win at Atlanta so bad. It's his home track. Chase Elliott's in. Denny Hamlin, after a lackluster performance at Daytona, getting caught up in a wreck really early. I expect him to bounce back. He's a great speedway racer. Denny Hamlin's in my lineup. Another one, Ryan Blaney, came up inches short to winning Atlanta in the spring. Expect him to race well. One of the best pushers in speedway racing, Brad Keselowski. I expect him to do well. Another one came up just short in Atlanta in the spring. Didn't make the playoffs, but he is a lot of motivation to do well right now. Chris Buescher. And in my garage, in case there's some wrecks that follow up, I do expect Bubba Wallace to have a very solid outing. Now, here are the matchups that NASCAR's giving you. You've got Chase Briscoe versus Harrison Burton. Based on what the Wood brothers do at the speedway-type racing, I like Harrison Burton over this one. You've got Ryan Blaney versus Denny Hamlin. I'm going to give the edge to Denny Hamlin again. I really think he will have a very good race here, not finishing great. Not finishing at all at Daytona and not having the result he expected to have at the Southern 500. Expect him to win the head-to-head matchup there. Kyle Larson versus Christopher Bell. I don't even need to think about this one. Kyle Larson always ends up somehow in a wreck. So he doesn't need my luck to jinx him. So I'm going with Christopher Bell. I think he'll be a solid pick as well. Tyler Reddick versus William Byron. I like the 2311 cars in this race. I like the Toyotas in Atlanta. I've got Tyler Reddick over William Byron. Now, some hot picks. They're obviously going to want you to pick Daniel Suarez. Of course, he just won at plus 1,400. Not a bad number to pick Daniel Suarez. The next one, William Byron. It's a hot pick. Yeah, the Hendricks are fastest speedway racing. That's the Daytona 500 winner. I wouldn't pick William Byron to win this race. I think the Toyotas are going to be the ones that are the class of the field. And there you go. It says avoid Tyler Reddick. Last time I told me to avoid Tyler Reddick, he won the race. Plus 1,800, not a bad idea if you want to sprinkle a little bit on that. Kyle Larson, 100% avoid. I was already mentioning that. He's going to crash. He struggled with the speedway racing no matter if he's running first, second, third 31st and hanging out at the back. Somehow he gets caught up in a wreck. It doesn't matter, this type of racing. And sleeper's Corey LaJoie. And that makes sense. I mean, I don't think he wins, but plus 5,500, you know what? Throw $10 down and see if you can win $550. I mean, why not? That's you might have a shot. He's been leading late at the first Atlanta race that they did the Speedway racing, and he's been up front in a lot of them. I expect him to do well, and he's got a chance just like anybody else at Speedway racing in Atlanta. So prepare yourselves there. All right, now who do I have for this race? Who am I picking, and who's worth a bet? You saw all the odds for the few different ones that we went through there, courtesy of DraftKings, which they have a phenomenal way to do NASCAR picks, which I won the one at Martinsville and have come up so short on so many of them right now. A little bit of a cold streak with it. Well, let's do Xfinity first. Let's keep the suspense high. Xfinity, you think of the junior motorsports cars that are good at Speedway racing. You go with the Richard Childress cars that are good there. And obviously the Joe Gibbs will be solid there. I'm picking a Chevy in this one, and I'm hoping I don't jinx him this time. But this guy is as good as there is. He's a front runner for the Xfinity Championship. Once again, I've got Justin Allgaier for Atlanta in the Xfinity Series and for the NASCAR Cup Series. I've got this driver in my lineup. I got him in there for a reason. I think he starts off with a bang in the playoffs and moves on right away into the next round. I think you could see somebody that's not in the playoffs, but I'm going with this guy. People aren't really talking about it because I don't know why. He's one of the best pushers there is in Speedway racing, and he is hungry for a win. I think as long as he can keep it clean, start up front, and hold his position there and be there at the end, he will be hard to beat. The Fords have been fast. I've got Brad Keselowski to win at Atlanta. All right, let's talk about the IndyCar series. The doubleheader has finished at Milwaukee. The championship is now tight. It really comes down to three different drivers: Alex Palou, Will Power, and Scott McLaughlin. And I really think it comes down to two drivers. They don't race this week. They race in Nashville next week. We will dive in a little bit deeper when it comes to that. I knew it was going to be chaos at Milwaukee, and it was from the start to the finish of the start of the first race to the finish of the second race. Incredible crowd, great racing, hard racing. You know the championship's on the line. These drivers are driving so hard. It all comes down to this. The driver's led the most laps this year, Scott McLaughlin, and he is tied for the most wins this year with 3. But he also hasn't been as consistent as Alex Palou and getting those points. Will Power has been on a tear lately. So who gets that momentum? Scott McLaughlin coming out off that win. A win could potentially get him, depending on where Alex finishes. I think it'll be tough to overcome a 50-point deficit behind Alex, but we'll dive into it next week. But y'all send in your predictions. Which driver do you think takes home the IndyCar Championship? And I'm going to set a poll out there, really with 3 drivers: Alex Palou, Will Power, or Scott McLaughlin. I think Colton Herta is too far out, and I think Scott Dixon's out too. So it comes down to those 3. Which one will get it? The 2 Penske's or Ganassi? So let's move on from IndyCar, touch on NHRA. I only got the motorcycle pick right. Gage Herrera goes back on top, wins at Indianapolis in the biggest event of the year for NHRA. And then, of course, Aaron Stanfield. Can we talk about how good he has been this year? Getting another Wally at Indy. Incredible season that he is having. And then Austin Prock, need we say, less about him. I mean, come on. Getting another win in the Top Fuel, getting his 5th for the year as a rookie in the funny car. I mean, he's a rookie in funny car technically, but he's got an insane amount of experience in Top Fuel. He's definitely better in this car than he's ever been, and he's going to win the championship. You mark my words. I'm saying that right now. And the countdown begins 2 weeks in Charlotte. I had to think about which day it was. 2 weeks in Charlotte it begins. And, of course, Top Fuel, Clay Millican gets a big-time win. He gets his first U.S. Nationals win. So, what does this all mean? That means we have no idea what to expect in a NHRA when they head to Charlotte. Anything can happen. This is going to be an incredible championship run for all these drivers. I think Gage Herrera is going to win the motorcycle. I'm kind of going out on a limb there. I already told you Austin Prock's going to win in the funny car series. The other ones are kind of up for grabs, and when Dad gets back on next week, we will dive in a little bit closer, and likely we're going to be trackside at Charlotte to give you guys some content, maybe some live commentary with the racing. It's not a 4-wide Nationals, just regular 2-wide to kick off the countdown for NHRA, but we'll be there. We should be there, barring anything crazy, and give you guys some trackside stuff. Okay, so real quick, diving into sprint car racing before we preview the biggest racing this week. I want to start off with the World of Outlaws, and then we'll go into High Limit because High Limit has the biggest races this week, and races that are a special place in my heart and my family coming up this week. So let's talk about the World of Outlaws. How about Buddy Kofoid, man? Holding off Carson Macedo at a last turn effort to try to slide in front. Wasn't able to get it stick. Buddy Kofoid crosses back over, gets a win at the Houston High Bank Nationals, and gets a 6-figure payday. Buddy had no idea what to say. He literally said, "Holy!" What was going through your mind? He said, "Holy shit!" That's what was going through my mind when Carson dive bombed and tried everything to get that win. It was incredible racing at Houston, and I'm glad they were able to pick this weekend as the rain delay makeup. It was great. It was great. It was really, really good racing. You can't really say enough about the track preparation, the drivers being patient with them. They understand that Mother Nature, things happen in sprint car racing. And luckily there was a great week to have a rain date, so they were able to make it work. And they have 2 races this week. Nothing really big. It's kind of a little bit settling down, but it's the first time in 5 years that the World of Outlaws head to the Stockton Dirt Track, and that's in Stockton, California. It's 12,000 win, but they already had their big payday. This is one to these are a couple races now. Let's start racking up some points to see where we can get to with the championship. So let's break down the championship in this one. David Gravel is running away with this. Carson Macedo is actually closing in on Donnie Schatz, only 4 points behind in second place. So it looks like David Gravel, barring anything crazy that's going to happen, with his 13 wins, he's going to be the champion this year. I'd be shocked if he loses that lead. He's been consistent enough this whole year. He could probably crash on one of these or both of these races and still have the points lead. So let's talk about the Stockton Dirt Track. I'm going to it's a semi-banked dirt track. I believe it's a quarter mile, 3/8 of a mile. David Gravel does have the track record last time they were there. What does that mean? Yeah, you already guessed it. My pick for the Stockton Dirt Track is none other than the point leader and pretty much put this championship to rest. David Gravel's my pick for the Stockton Dirt Track. And they race once again on the 7th at King Speedway, which, if you remember correctly, the High Limit was just recently there. Tom Tarleton Classic in California. And this is his This is Carson Macedo's team's home track, so it's a similar type of racetrack as Stockton, and I think it'll be another good racing. If you get caught up in lap traffic, the way you can move in and out of it, this means a lot to Carson Macedo and his crew. But that's not my pick for this weekend. Kind of a dark horse here. Just been really quiet lately, and I think he's got potential to do well. He won a couple years ago. I've got Logan Schuchart to race this one. I wish the sports books would have World of Outlaws in there, don't you think? But I like Logan Schuchart for this race coming up at the Tom Tarleton Classic at King Speedway. It's time. Let's talk about the High Limit Series. Go over Skagit real quick. Rico Abreu goes back-to-back nights, and the final night gets his biggest payday ever, over $102,000 from the Skagit Nationals. Rico fends off James McFadden, which we were really close on. He was solid both all the nights, and Dad and I had the same picks last week, so yeah, we weren't too far off. At least we kind of know what we're talking about. So the championship points, I mean, it's really no. Yeah, there's no, it's no race anymore. Brad Sweet's going to win the championship in the High Limit Series. I didn't see what let's see if they have the points up for the Midweek Money Series. So Midweek Money is still Tyler Courtney. He's still 16 points ahead of Brad Sweet. But there's no Midweek Money this week. It's all regular races to get championship points and extend his lead. This is the second biggest race in Pennsylvania, in central Pennsylvania area. The Tuscarora 50 at Port Royal Speedway. If you don't know what that is, Tuscarora 50 is a 50-lap race at the infamous Port Royal Speedway in Port Royal, Pennsylvania. In the mountains, in the foothills where it rains, unpredictably, just like any other mountain town. Small town, the fair is going to be in full effect in this one. Beer will be sold. Feelings will be hurt. It's going to be a good time. The Tuscarora 50 it means so much for the local crews, especially the ones that are racing there for the track championship. The posse is going to show out big time. There's 3 nights. Do I think they get all 3 nights in? No. It's very rare that you get 3 nights in a row in Port Royal and it doesn't rain in any of them. I think you'll get the main event, and hopefully, I haven't looked at the weather. I'm really looking forward to this one. A lot of big racing this weekend to have. This might be one of the biggest races this weekend, though. The strategy of Tuscarora 50 is it breaks down to 25-lap features, essentially. You have a break at halfway, and then you move on to the second part of the night. That red flag that they have, you can make adjustments and do whatever you need. That is significant, because if your car is not doing what it needs, there's some certain mechanics out there that can make your car complete junk and make it a rocket ship for the second half. I expect really good racing. Port Royal's been putting on fantastic racing. The track has looked phenomenal this year. It really has. The testament to the track crew. The crowd is going to be wild. So what does that mean? There's 3 nights. I'm only going to give you the Tuscarora 50 pick. That's the one that matters. You're going to see posse versus high limit. That's what it comes down to. Well, this guy was really, really fast at Port Royal. Last time they were there, he's been fast at a lot of the PA tracks. And he's a leader in the Midweek Money Series. He's second in points. He needs to get some wins and try to close up to Brad Sweet. My pick for the Tuscarora 50 is none other than Sunshine Tyler Courtney. Now, not PA people. You might get mad at me for not picking a PA guy. Expect Logan Wagner to be really fast. He's been really solid, but I kind of got to go with my gut. And I also don't want to jinx Logan in the 69K crew. So let's don't come at me too hard on that one. Okay? But that's my pick for the Tuscarora 50. Now, we were going to do our top 5 this week, or 5 tracks outside of the U.S. for NASCAR to potentially race at in a points-paying race, but we'll wait until next week when Dad gets back on and we're both together and we can reveal our top 5 there. In the meantime, keep dropping in the comments what tracks you want to see there. Let me know what you think about this. Make sure you share on all social media. Follow me on all social media. Share it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It doesn't cost anything. You just hit the little subscribe button and you just follow and all the content that I have. And check out all the guest interviews that I've had in the past. Trying to figure out a few to have coming up to end the season. And we're getting closing in to the final part of all the racing seasons. So, yeah, make sure you remember my pick for the NASCAR Cup Series, Brad Keselowski. Look at those odds there, and it might not be a bad idea to have him on there. Make sure you guys follow wherever you get your podcast. All podcast networks, available everywhere. Till next week, guys. See you then.